What if I told you that by the end of this movie, you'll witness one of the most jaw-dropping plot twists that will leave your mind spinning? Because Fractured isn't just another psychological thriller, it's a descent into confusion, and a reality-shattering truth. So hit that subscribe button, and let's dive deep into the mystery that will keep you guessing until the final frame. After spending Thanksgiving with his in-laws, Ray is driving back home with his wife Joanne and their daughter Piri, but the mood inside the car is far from festive. Tensions are high as Ray and Joanne fall into yet another argument, something that's become a recurring pattern in their marriage. This time, they're clashing over Joanne's parents, who clearly don't approve of Ray and even offered him wine at dinner, despite knowing he's a recovering alcoholic. The fight initially started because they showed up late, a result of Ray driving cautiously. He reminds Joanne that this careful driving is part of his recovery process, especially after the tragic accident years ago in which he caused the death of his first wife, Abby. Ray still wants to mend things, but Joanne is beginning to lose hope. She thinks their marriage may be beyond saving, and that perhaps it's time they accept the inevitable. Their argument is abruptly interrupted when Piri complains that her music player has stopped working. Ray realizes he forgot to pack spare batteries. To keep her entertained, he sings a cheerful little tune instead, which amuses her until she suddenly announces she needs to use the bathroom. The family pulls into the next gas station. Joanne takes Piri to the restroom while Ray grabs some items inside the store: a coffee for himself, a soda for Joanne, a pack of batteries for Piri, and, in a moment of weakness, he sneaks too many liquor bottles into his basket. Unfortunately, the store doesn't accept credit cards, and Ray doesn't have enough cash. He has to put something back. Rather than abandoning the liquor, he leaves the batteries behind and lies to Piri, claiming the store ran out. As they prepare to get back on the road, Piri realizes she's lost her compact mirror. Joanne checks the restroom while Ray searches the back seat, grumbling about the mess Piri left behind. Meanwhile, Piri slips out of the car and begins wandering near a construction site next to the gas station. She strays dangerously close to an exposed pit, where she's suddenly threatened by a stray dog. Ray hears her cries and races to her rescue. He first tries to scare the dog away with words, but when that fails, he throws a rock at it. The dog runs off, but in the process, Piri loses her footing and tumbles into the pit. Ray jumps in after her. Ray is briefly knocked out from the fall. As he lies dazed at the bottom, he hears a haunting voice whisper, "They're both gone." He regains consciousness when Joanne climbs down, sobbing hysterically over Piri's limp body. Initially frozen with shock, Ray stares blankly at his daughter before slowly snapping back to reality, only to realize that Piri is alive. Her arm is broken, but she's breathing. Carefully, Ray lifts her and carries her back to the car, where Joanne cradles her to keep her from moving too much. Joanne suggests calling an ambulance, but Ray insists he saw a hospital sign not far back and argues that he can get there faster than waiting for emergency services. In a rare moment of reckless determination, Ray drives faster than he has in years, weaving dangerously through traffic. Joanne is startled but impressed. Earlier she doubted that Ray still had any fight left in him, but now he's proving otherwise. At the hospital, Ray tells the front desk they have an emergency, but the receptionist instructs him to take a seat like everyone else. Joanne grows frustrated and urges him to be more assertive. Ray tries again and is finally asked to fill out an admission form. As the receptionist picks up the phone to notify Dr. Bertram that another one has arrived, she mentions the patient's age and blood type. Now that they're on the list, Ray rejoins Joanne and wraps Piri in her scarf to keep her comfortable. Joanne apologizes for losing her temper earlier and even cracks a joke, prompting a rare laugh between them. Ray remarks that it's been a long time since they laughed together. Joanne starts to feel pain in her neck, so Ray heads to a vending machine to get a cold soda can for her. While doing so, he notices something odd through a window. An ambulance arrives carrying two bodies, and moments later, a box labeled for organ transport is wheeled out. Soon after, they're called into an office to complete more paperwork while waiting for the doctor. The questions seem to go beyond standard protocol. There are inquiries about Ray's previous wife, his history with alcohol, his job, and even a strong push to enroll Piri as an organ donor. Both parents refuse. After the lengthy intake, they're told the hospital doesn't accept Ray's insurance. Determined, Ray promises to pay in cash and heads to an ATM. Meanwhile, the secretary steps away to seek special approval. After a brief conversation with a hospital administrator, she sends a nurse to finally admit Piri and take her to a bed. As Ray leaves the office, he overhears the secretary giving Dr. Bertram all of Piri's details, just like before. Once Piri is settled in, Dr. Bertram visits and gently examines her. He's kind and comforting, and as Ray recounts what happened, Joanne is stunned to hear about the dog. Ray hadn't mentioned that part earlier. The doctor suspects possible internal injuries and recommends a CAT scan, which will be costly, but Ray agrees without hesitation. When Bertram asks about a scratch on Ray's forehead, Ray claims he's fine and dismisses it. A short time later, Nurse Folk brings Piri a plush toy and prepares to take her for the scan. Only one parent is allowed to accompany her, so Joanne goes with Piri while Ray returns to the waiting room for a nap. Hours pass. Ray is awakened by a stranger who mentions he was talking in his sleep. He checks his scratch in the restroom mirror, then returns to the front desk for updates on Piri. But now there's a new receptionist, and Dr. Bertram has left for the day. The receptionist promises to investigate but urges Ray to wait. Growing anxious, Ray tries to make small talk with a woman nearby, but the conversation only heightens his unease. He returns to the desk to push for answers. The receptionist looks Piri up in the system, nothing. She checks with his insurance information, but is confused when Ray says he plans to pay in cash, which isn't allowed. Bleeding from his forehead and growing frantic, Ray demands to know where his daughter is. The receptionist makes some calls, and meanwhile, Ray notices people outside dumping bags marked as hazardous waste. When she finally reports that no pediatric patients have been admitted in the past 24 hours, Ray's panic boils over. He storms off and finds the bed Piri was taken to, only to find a different family there. He causes a commotion and is quickly surrounded by staff, including Nurse Folk, Guard Jeff, and Dr. Lucado, who try to calm him down. Dr. Lucado listens to Ray's story and checks the day's paperwork, but there's no record of Piri. Then Folk reappears, and Ray recognizes him. But Folk insists he only treated Ray for his head wound and saw no one else with him. Enraged, Ray accuses him of lying. Jeff and Folk restrain Ray and sedate him. Ray is taken to a private room and pretends to calm down. Once alone, he finds a dose of adrenaline in a supply cabinet and injects himself to counter the sedative. He smashes a window to escape, ignoring the pain in his head as he makes his way through the hospital. He runs into Folk again, now dressed like a doctor. Before Ray can question him, Jeff appears, prompting a chase that ends outside. Ray hides in a truck bed and doubles back to his car once Jeff is gone. Holding Piri's toys, Ray sees a police cruiser and runs toward it, frantically explaining the entire situation. The officers agree to investigate. Inside, Jeff defends his actions as necessary for hospital security. The cops check the hospital logs and surveillance. Lucado backs Jeff's story and calls Bertram to confirm it. They search the third floor where the CAT scanner is located, but find no trace of Piri. Ray insists Joanne and Piri were taken to the lower levels, not upstairs. Security footage shows Ray entering the hospital alone. Even the admission forms list only Ray. Bertram soon arrives and claims Ray came in alone, disoriented, talking about his dead wife Abby. Ray denies all of this, arguing that Bertram must have pulled that detail from the questionnaire. The officers begin to doubt him. Jeff suggests reviewing security footage, but the system glitches and shows no clear proof. Privacy laws prevent access to ER footage, so without solid evidence, the police can't act further. Desperate, Ray suggests the gas station clerk can confirm his story. The officers try to track him down. Just then, a nurse brings in Piri's yellow scarf, stained with blood. But it's Ray's blood, not proof enough she was ever here. Dr. Bertram suggests Ray may be confused due to head trauma. Just then, Dr. Jacobs, a psychiatrist, arrives. She gently interviews Ray and reveals they found a file, not for Piri, but for Ray himself. As she questions him about Joanne, Piri, and Abby's accident, Ray grows increasingly distressed. He insists he hasn't had a drink since the day Abby died. Jacobs believes something happened at the construction site and urges the cops to search it. The gas station is closed, and the clerk is nowhere to be found. At the pit, dogs find Piri's compact mirror and a large amount of blood, far too much for a living person. Despite Ray's pleas that it's from his head wound, the cops declare it a crime scene. Jacobs guides Ray through his memories and slowly uncovers the truth. There was no dog. Ray had thrown a rock during his argument with Joanne, accidentally hitting Piri. When Joanne confronted him, he pushed her, killing her as well. Jacobs explains that Ray's mind fractured to protect him from trauma, creating a delusion that they were still alive. As an officer moves to arrest him, Ray hears barking. The same feral dog has returned. He takes this as validation, overpowers the cop, and locks everyone in the gas station bathroom after stealing Jacob's keycard. Ray returns to the hospital through a back entrance. Along the way, he sees the maternity ward and flashes back to the night Abby died. She had been pregnant, which explains the voice in his head. They're both gone. He steals a doctor's coat and takes the elevator, cornering Jeff and forcing him to unlock the lower floors. A fight ensues, and Ray kills Jeff to get the keys. In the restricted area, he finds Peri's plushie in a trash can and stumbles onto what appears to be a horrifying secret: the hospital is harvesting organs. He sees boxes labeled for transport and what seem to be empty corpses. In one room, he finds Peri unconscious on a table and Joanne sedated in a wheelchair. He threatens the doctors with his gun and grabs his family. As the staff attacks, he shoots a gas tank, causing an explosion. Dizzy but determined, Ray wheels his family to safety, shooting anyone who gets in the way, including Folk. They escape just before police arrive. Ray drives away, singing to his family in the backseat. But then the truth is revealed. Jacobs was right. Ray had killed his wife and daughter. He only imagined taking them to the hospital. The lower level was actually the morgue. The bodies he saw weren't empty, they were normal cadavers. Lucado had been performing an autopsy on someone else, not Peri. In the car, Ray is not carrying his wife and daughter. Their real bodies are in the trunk. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to subscribe, like, share with friends, and leave a comment. Your support helps the channel grow.